Welcome to The Smart Athlete. Insightful conversations with some of the smartest athletes, coaches, and trainers around the world. In these conversations, we hear future goals, daily habits, and the nuanced steps of the athlete en route to successful craft, all hosted by Britt Smart.
Today, we have with us Chloe Molloy. Thanks for joining us, Chloe.
No, thank you for having me, Britt. The bull.
Yes, that's right. The bull. See, I played with Chloe, what was that, like 6 years ago? Like my first year playing in Australia, and your first year, like, you know, you're basically
as a development player.
Basically born.
I was literally
you were an
out of the womb.
You were just a little baby toddler, and I was the granny, and we played on the same team. Yeah, boomers. You were a development player. I was just an older vet. Just
trying to keep the career alive.
I was a bull, trying to post you up and push you through and toss the little girl around, you know, but you still had skills. You crossed me up a few times. I remember it, even if you don't. No, but thanks.
That's good. I like knowing that. You've made me who I am today.
Oh, that's right. Oh man, what a smart athlete we have here. Anyways, no, yeah, thanks for coming on. Obviously, a lot has gone on in your young career. How old are you now these days?
21 going on 22.
Oh my gosh, you're still a baby.
Still a toddler. Wow. I just learned to walk yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, good. No, you've experienced a lot. And I think a lot of young athletes and older athletes can still learn a lot from what you've been through, a little bit about your journey, and then we'll go through maybe what you're up to now and your goals. So yeah, dual athlete, started off as a basketball player. You're finishing off as a Aussie rules footy player for those Americans. Aussie rules, Australian rules football. Gonna have to look it up. Pretty physical game. Probably the most popular game here in Australia, along with cricket.
Part of the culture.
It actually really is. People live and breathe it. And let's talk about that for a second, because we have what are your thoughts on that? Because in the States, we live and breathe sports, you know, basketball, football, or gridiron, you know, whatever it is, baseball, like hockey. We have literally anything and everyone. But here it's Australian rules because it is just an Australian sport. Wow, you really, as soon as babies are born, so, you know, last year for you when you were born, you probably had a footy jumper on from someone in your family making you a fan. Tell us a little bit about the footy culture in your life and just in the Australian life.
Yeah, well, I studied a Bachelor of Sports Media and graduated at the start of this year, but it was actually something we touched on in one of the subjects is sport in Australia, and obviously AFL is only played in Australia, within the borders of Australia. And it literally kind of in a way defines who you are. And there's all these preconceived ideas about Collingwood supporters, about Essendon supporters, about Carlton supporters. And it, like, you are born into it. And I was born into a Collingwood Brisbane family because it was my uncle played for Collingwood. So I did have a choice, but I knew no better, because straight away it was either a black and white jersey or it was a Lions jersey. And then I obviously am still a Collingwood supporter and went on to support Collingwood, still do. But it literally, people live and breathe through their sporting teams, and they live and breathe through AFL teams. And if the weekend for a certain team doesn't go a certain way, if they lose, it will impact people's weeks. And it's you know, it is like, it's starting points for discussion. It's, you know, when you meet someone for the first time, it's probably in the top 10 asked questions is, what footy team do you support? So it is a huge part of Australian culture. And for me, I would say I was born into a Collingwood family, so, and football family too, like a sport loving family. So I would pick up any ball and I'd just be happily play outside and play a sport. And I was born into that, so I knew no better than to play sport and be outside and be active. So yeah, in a way, I think I was destined either to play footy or some sort of sport.
Oh yeah, I just can't believe, you know, people will be stressing about the game at night. And I just think, I know kind of, not that the gambling culture is big here in Australia, but it kind of is. They have tips, they have pool, you're going to the TAB just to put something on. I mean, obviously it gets to high stakes, but my $5 will do every now and again.
And even if it's not a monetary bet, it's like, I bet you a coffee on the weekend if my team wins, or it literally, like I've heard of stories where they're friends for the week, but they support different teams. And when it gets to that day, they don't talk to each other because they're just so passionate about it. And like, even though it's not a monetary bet, and I think we are a big gambling and it's all plastered everywhere and it's exposed to us. So that's what we know. And, but like, little story, I was babysitting a 4-year-old and she knew like a gambling ad, kind of like, the jingles that they have.
Yeah.
And she knew that. And I was like, you are way too young to know that. Like, you shouldn't. But that's kind of what's in us. Like, I bet you a coffee, or I bet you a meal that Collingwood will beat St Kilda or something like that. So yeah, it's not even just monetary.
Yeah, I mean, people get in fights about it. They stress about it. Sometimes they're even too stressed to watch it, even though it's their team. It's like, it really rules their life. They do have a good week or a good day, depending on if their team wins or loses. And it's really deep. So I'll be like cheering for my team, like rah, rah, ree, blah, 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 whatever. But like some people, when they cheer, it is deep, heartfelt love or hatred or, mad at your team for making a mistake, or the umpires. And it's like, it's really out of control. I had to really learn to adjust. And sometimes I have to realize, okay, it's just culture. It's not like, whatever, but sometimes it goes over the top. So with you had the white and black stripes. So they go up and down for those who don't know. And the mascot are magpies. Also, those of you out of Australia, it's a bird who attacks and pecks people who ride on a bike. And they attack them. So very violent, very aggressive bird, good mascot. And that is a team that you got drafted to. And, the dream came true of you actually being involved in a player of the Australian way and Aussie rules, and the whole culture and lifestyle of it actually came true for women a few years ago, which is really, really cool. And it came on the ground or on the scene with a splash. People made it a priority. And side note, gender equality in sports and biases and all that stuff, that can change if the people at the top put the people or the women or the minority in the front, in the focus, and make them look like superstars, whether they are or not. I think AFLW is. I'm just saying, put them in the front. Yeah. That's when you can start balancing out. It's just like UFC. No one thought women would fight, and all of a sudden they were like, no, women are going to fight. And guess what? Everyone knows who Ronda Rousey is and Holly Holmes. And all of a sudden I'm turning on the TV for women fighting. I'm like, huh? What? Where did this come from?
When did this happen?
Yeah. So, very similar, with footy and AFLW, and it should just be AFL. But of course, the W has to be on the end, athletes. Why is it always female athletes and then athletes, not just male athletes?
Athletes.
Exactly. Anywho, that's for another day. But how did you feel, growing up, knowing that Collingwood was your team that you support and now you represent them?
It was definitely, like, I wouldn't say it was a dream come true just because I wasn't exposed to women being on TV playing football. So for me, there was kind of an end point to it all. And I just wanted to get to that. And then I knew from there, being kind of young and naive, I was like, okay, I can't play footy anymore. I'll just go do something else. So it's not necessarily a dream come true, but it's pretty special to be able to, say to you that growing up as a kid, I had a Collingwood jersey, with all these players' numbers on the back, whether it was 13 for Dale Thomas or 5 for Nathan Buckley. And then to have my own jersey with my own number, my own Collingwood locker with my number on it. And kind of, it was mine, personal one. Like, it was literally mine. Like, you wear that number and you wear those colours, and it is a Molloy Guernsey, not a Thomas or a Buckley or a Didac one. That's yours. And I think that's really special. And it's kind of funny when I go look at home in the wardrobe that everyone puts their stuff in, and looking at all the old jerseys, and I've got all my old Collingwood ones of me as a kid in the colours supporting the team, and now I'm on the inner sanctum representing a team that I once watched growing up.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. That had to be an unexpected dream come true, maybe, or an unexpected fulfillment that maybe you didn't know was that you had. So if that wasn't your dream, because you didn't even know it was possible to have that as a dream, what was your childhood dream? What did you go after? What was your main focus then? What did you want to be when you grew up, which was, like 5 years ago?
Well, so when I stopped playing football, I chose to go pursue basketball because there was the WNBL, and I knew of the WNBL, and I knew of college, and that kind of pathway, and that's kind of exposed to you pretty early on during your basketball career is, oh, this is actually an option for you. So for me, that's what I wanted to do, and I came through the ranks, and then ended up, the main goal was to get to college, to get that D1 scholarship. And however I got there, that's where I wanted to be. And Mum and I invested a lot of time and kilometres into getting me there. And of course, money. And it was the same year, Britt, that I signed for college that the AFLW was established. So like you said, I had this dream that I didn't even know I could have or wanted versus the one I'd worked so hard for and put so many years and time into. And then I was kind of given the choice in a way, whether to take a sure thing because I'd gotten a scholarship. I was there. Yep. I'd finished the race. All I needed to do was, go through the ribbon that they've got at the end, and I was there. But all of a sudden I was like, oh, here's a hurdle for you. Like, remember that, all those memories playing footy growing up, the AFLW is now a thing, and the women's footy is going to be on TV, and it's going to be a paid gig, and it's actually kind of a career that I could pursue. So it was established in 2017, and that was the year I was meant to go overseas. But for me, it just, when I heard about it, I was like, I just can't give that opportunity up to play AFLW. And I had a lot of internal demons, tearing me this way and that way. And it's quite hard to talk to Mum about it because she, it's, even for you, like, it's not just yourself. A lot of people invest in your journey and stick by you. And I kind of was like, oh, I can't get to the end and then give up. Like, yeah. I can't do that to myself, and I can't do that to them. But it was a 4-year commitment, and I just couldn't see myself being happy for 4 years over there for something that is so special. And for someone else, that spot was for them. It wasn't meant for me. As much as I tried to make it for me, it just really wasn't. And it would have been selfish for me to go over there and take a spot on a team instead of someone who would have given their right or left arm to be there. So I made the choice. It was definitely a choice for me to go pursue football. And I was giving up a sure thing versus a gamble. And, the gamble could have gone either way, but for me, it was a decision, and you make decisions right for you. And I believe that's what I've done. And whether other people think it's right or wrong, for me, that was the choice I made, and I went with it. And I, have scripted it how I want it to be. And Mum's jumped on board now, despite, us kind of arguing about it and her being the devil's advocate. But I just see that as she just loves me that much that she just wants to make sure that I'm making the choice that's right for me. And that, So it was that 2017 was a defining year for, I guess you could say, for me, and where a lot of growth was discovered through, a decision between footy and basketball.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting because you said, you didn't want to give up that spot if your heart wasn't into it, as far as taking a place in a college team that could be someone else's spot. So you didn't feel right taking it. Now, if there was no AFLW here, would you still have taken it? If there was no AFLW, I would have gone. I would have just been coming back from college because I would have taken it, because you spoke about, you need to put them out there, and we need to be able to see people that look like us and need to be able to see that it is something I can do. But I had no exposure to it. I had no idea about women's footy. So, of course, I'm not going to know anything about it. But then
once I see it, that's when all this, the memories start flooding back, and I go, oh, I remember playing footy and how happy that made me. But I could hand on heart say if there was no football, like I said, I would just be coming back from college because I would have gone over, because I would have known better.
Well, and maybe there was no right or wrong. Maybe you could have gone to the States and you would have loved it and had a great career and you'd keep playing, or not, wouldn't have mattered. Like it could have absolutely gone that way. But at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, something different, something new and exciting. Was there a time where you had gotten burnt out from basketball and you weren't having fun with basketball? So that change of either going to the States away from Australian basketball, knowing it would always be here, or having a change just in sport, was that the reason why, or could have been some part of the factor rather than staying just in WNBL, not even going to college, not even going to footy?
Yeah, I think I'd be lying if I said it didn't play a small part in it. I think the overarching choice was that footy made me happy at that time, and I probably haven't even thought about it. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit burnt out from basketball, because you, like, being a basketball yourself, you know how demanding it can be, and how political it can be. Like, I love the sport, I love the people in it. Would never speak a bad word about anyone in there, but it can be so competitive because there's 10 spots and only 5 start on the court, and
only 8 teams.
And if you're not up to it, then you're probably going to be sitting on the bench. And not that I wasn't ready to work hard to get up there. It just, I was pretty exhausted. I think I had a stress fracture in my hand, and it was my foot.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, now that you say that, I think that probably definitely played a little bit of a part in it, that I was kind of ready for a new challenge, a refresh, kind of like a restart. And I guess the timing just was impeccable that the AFLW had come up during that time. It was like it was meant to be, so to say, because, it can be very full on within that basketball bubble.
Yeah, well, and just environment, like there's a lot of times, like obviously, like I'm still 35 and playing. People are like, oh, how can you play it so long? But when you travel and play in Europe, or if you play in college, or if you play on, different teams or whatever, sometimes it's not the sport. I really enjoy the sport. It's just the new environment. Things change, coaches change, teammates change, and you're kind of like, hey, I kind of feel nothing against this team, but maybe I might find value somewhere over here. Let's just, take a little, not a detour, but a different direction to keep learning and progressing your own game, and seeing if you can come and help another club, and see what you can do there. And that allows you to be versatile as well.
And grow.
Yeah.
And grow from it.
So what are some similarities and some differences with like footy and basketball? What would be the differences in culture and mindset? And I know that can vary from club to club. But what would be even pros and cons that you wish would be in footy or wish would have been in basketball?
Very, very well worded question. I think for me, just with where the AFLW is at the minute, so we're semi-professional, so everything we do is after hours. So we've all got, that's kind of the same with the WNBL. People work other jobs as well as committing to basketball. But I think one of the similarities for me, and I think that's more on me, is the competitive side of things. At footy, there's more players on a field, so it is very competitive. But in basketball, there's 2 point guards. So it's almost like what we spoke off camera about, she's really good. I'm going to train with her. It's kind of, and you keep competing against each other and getting better because there's 2 spots. Whereas in footy, it's very different because there's not one other player that you're competing against,
like head to head.
Yeah. In that kind of sense, because the squads, there's not 30 on or 16 on the field and then 16 off the field, so there's not someone to compete against with every time. And I guess that's probably not a con, but that would be kind of cool in the footy space if that was there, because I think it would help a lot of athletes grow, because no one becomes content in their position, because in basketball, you've always got someone nipping at your ankles literally there's another point guard sitting on the bench and like you start to go flat, you're off and the other one's on. And it's just that head-to-head where in footy that kind of doesn't happen because there's not a direct opponent on your team. Mm-hmm. There's no one to fight for that one position. So I do wish that was kind of a thing because I just couldn't imagine. I just imagine the contest that to be had like. That's like probably one of the things. Yeah.
That's why people love playing 1-on-1 or sometimes 3-on-3 or whatever. And you want to see, that's why NBA rules where you can't have help defense. You know, you wanted to see
that 1-on-1. Yeah, the best go against the best. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cultural wise, I think it's very different because we spoke before. Footy is some people's everything. So like it's almost like we're put on a pedestal because we play AFL, which is the sport that Australians love. Whereas basketball, and like within 4 years, we've progressed so quickly. Like you said, we came on the scene, we made a splash, like we made ourselves known. Whereas the WNBL is still building, and like it's been around for years. Like it used to be broadcasted on ABC.
Yep.
And the quality of the TV wasn't great, but now like it's slowly building. Whereas within 4 years, because we are playing the sport that's a part of the culture, it helped us progress a lot quicker. So there's definitely that difference in culture.
Automatically in the spotlight. And so how that had to have hit you hard because you also came on first season, you know, they're putting you guys in spotlight and you had a great first season, got Rising Star or something, I believe, which is kind of like Rookie of the Year, whatever you want to say. So all of that's coming on. You're having different sponsorships or different commercials. How did you handle all that with your personality? Do you love that? Do you get sick of that? What went through your head?
Well, I think my years of basketball and also the environment I grew up in with my parents, I didn't, not that it was a shock or anything, but I sit here thinking about it. I'm like, I didn't really feel pressure. I didn't feel kind of anything like that. Yes, you know, you love being adored, but at the end of the day, we play team sports because we love, you know, team environments. So I had, you know, like you said, I had individual season was great, but team wise, it wasn't. So, being put in the spotlight and being in the AFLW straight away, it in a way, like I don't mean this to come across arrogant, but it didn't faze me at all because we've got a job as athletes and that's to go out there and perform. And so that's just kind of ingrained in me. And like I said, my upbringing really shaped, you know, my idea and all that. Like if I wanted to go be an individual athlete, I'll go play tennis or something, but it wasn't in me to kind of, you know, it's cool to spoke up the spotlight, but I'd rather do that with my teammates. So yeah, in a way, it kind of really didn't faze me at all. Being put straight up there.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, some things are harder, you know, than others, but it sounds like your support system and environment was really key to you. And it kind of makes me think when that big decision happened from you know, not playing basketball anymore or either going to college or footy, maybe being around, that had to have been enticing staying to play footy because you had that support system right then and there. Not that you couldn't have grown or couldn't have found a support system there, couldn't support you from afar, but, you know, especially during that time when you maybe couldn't decide what you wanted to do, you probably got a lot of copped a lot of heat, whether you should or shouldn't have, or you've already committed to here and now letting people down saying, now I'm not going. Can people trust you? Your word, are you doing the right thing? Who are your support people? What were some of the ups and downs of that, second guessing yourself and then finally making that decision? But I think for athletes to thrive, you have to have a great support system because otherwise, you know, during that big decision and all that time, just personal conversations and all of a sudden your life's changing. That had to have hit a lot of people hard. And then, you know, then you're like, oh shoot, am I a bad person? You probably found out who your true friends were, who your true support system was. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that process and that environment.
Yeah. Well, I guess during that, like when it came to that decision to either choose one of the two, and like you said, there's no doubt, you know, we could be sitting here and I could have gone to college and we could be having the exact same chat and I would have had so many stories and so many opportunities for growth if I had taken basketball, but it's not what I chose. But coming back to that support system, there were times I definitely doubted what I was doing. And there's a lot of external noise. Like I said, people going, are you serious? Like, that's just absolutely crazy. Like, you don't even know if you can play footy. Like, why are you giving up something to go try something that you could not be good at? And are you going to regret it? Like, that college window, as you know, is only open for a small, it's open, and once it's closed, you can't open that back up. So Mum even said it to me. She's like, go to college and then come back and play footy. Like, you can always come back to footy. And I just was so adamant that I didn't want to do that. But I also needed to learn to communicate with Mum through that and tell her, give her reasons why I wanted to play football, and not just, she can't tell how I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, because she's also going through her own way of dealing with the decision of her daughter choosing to play football instead of basketball, because you want what's best for your kids. And she's like, oh my God, like, go to college and then come back. Like, are you silly? But I mentioned it. She does everything out of love, and she almost loves me way too much. But my dad and my brother, I knew that no matter whatever decision I made, they would have backed me in. Even if at times it felt like, Mum, why are you not listening to me? She was listening. She was just testing me and challenging me to help me realize that, okay, this is what you want to do. And like I said, she came around supporting, and now she is probably Collingwood's biggest fan, or whatever team I end up being.
The mom, Collingwood mom.
Exactly. She's the mum that will come to every game.
The mother bird. Mother magpie.
Oh, nice. That was smart by you. It's a massive, I think, having a solid support behind you. Not that we aren't capable of doing things ourselves or making choices on our own 2 feet. It is just sometimes nice when you do have, like, a little trip or a little fall, for someone to be there, like your parents, who can, push you back on path and get you going again. Because not that you need validation for choices you make, but it is nice to know that there are always going to be people in your corner, no matter what decision you choose, whether it turns out and it's a massive flop. Like, I could have been a massive flop, but I have no doubt the love would not have changed. And whatever I chose to do next, Mum would support me. Mum and Dad both would support me, hands down. Yeah. Without a doubt.
And I mean, those people, and like you said, your mom was just testing or challenging you. I also think the environment, like you said, our choices are our choices, and we need to make them and stand by them, whether they're good or bad. And we need to have the belief in ourselves that we can make choices on our own. But of course, we all have, in a sense, rose-colored glasses or blinders on, because we're only seeing it from our perspective. So having people, whether that's teammates, coaches, friends, parents, whatever, they're just showing you, and I guess that's a parent's job as well, showing you different perspectives to make sure, let's look at it all angles. And if people are willing to, and it sounds like you were willing to sit down and listen to maybe something that doesn't sound appealing, or they're just not listening to you, it's more of, okay, that perspective, and I have all these different options or ways to look at it, and then you still make the decision. And it sounds like that's the way you went, because you're feeling confident by, even if, let's say, you didn't even have a great year, the fact is you could still just love the sport and love to play and, be a part of that footy culture, so to speak. And, so I think you probably have learned a lot from that. And when it comes to big decisions in the future, knowing that I know what they're going to say, but let me just hear a perspective. So I have all the information possible to make the right decision.
Even that there were times like I didn't like what I was hearing, because it was challenging what I was thinking. So it was like, okay, I've actually got to go reassess all of this. And I think it not just from your parents, like you said, teammates, friends, partners, whoever it may be. Sometimes you're going to hear things that you don't like to hear, and they're going to challenge you in a way that, you start to question your decision. But if you can still, I guess, be content and confident in that decision, despite having all these challenges, and be like, no, but you say that, but what about this? And like having that, two-way conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's huge. And I definitely learned how to communicate a lot better with how I'm feeling through all of that. So,
yeah, I mean, learning to, be comfortable or not be comfortable, get in the habit of having hard conversations. And that's when relationships break down. Relationships, romantic relationships, relationships between coaches and teammates, coaches and players and teammates. When that communication, they're not able to say the hard things. I think that's when it just really unravels. Or if you're ever a boss or something and you have to hire and fire people and you're not able to have a hard conversation, well, your business is going to go down and you're not going to succeed. Or your teammates, you're not going to win if you're not able to say the hard things. Now, you have to establish some type of not boundary, of foundation of trust me, I'm saying these hard things, but know my heart and intentions. This is why I'm saying it. And so that part takes time. You can't just come into a new team or a new whatever and be like, listen, girl, that ain't right. Okay.
Yes. Yep. You're right. Build the foundations first, and then you can build from that. And then like, if you, like, I take myself back to when we were playing basketball, we were on the same team, like we'd kind of built the foundation. So if you turned around, and I knew that I also watched how hard you worked on a basketball court and even off the court, and your physical physique was the body of an athlete. So I knew how hard you worked. So if you were to turn around to me and tell me to do something, I'd be like, Britt's not going to tell me something that she wouldn't do herself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it. And I feel like we were able to have hard conversations because that foundation was there and that respect is there.
Yeah. And I think that's going to help you, tons. Whenever you get to the age of veteranship, when you lead the younger ones, but even now, anyone can be a leader. And I think that's why it's cool that I'm talking to you is, you're 21, 22, whatever it is. But you can learn from anyone, like even me talking to you, like there's things that I can get out of. And I think that a lot of people think you have to be of a certain age or, whatever to lead. And it may not be that you may not be, some teams, you may not be captain until you're older, or usually it tends to be an older person, which is fair enough, but you can lead whether you are captain or not. Leadership, I think you can each find a way to do your part and add influence and add impact to people's lives and teams, and to not feel like, oh, I'm a rookie, I can't do or say anything. Mm-hmm. And so I think, you have that. And I think if you kind of keep setting that foundation of hard work, and these are the things that I've gone through, and that you have actually instilled belief in your teammates that you're going to be able to say the hard things and get over it, and mm-hmm. be able to move on. But that's kind of like emotional, mental kind of adversity and stuff that you've gone through. I know you've had some injuries and stuff. How have you bounced back from the hand and the foot injury that's kept you out for a while? How are you feeling now and leading up to the season?
Yeah, the injury almost was a blessing in disguise. And I don't have any kind of sympathy for myself because I'm not the first person. I won't be the last person to go through a serious injury. And there's probably very similar stories out there.
What was it?
I tore Liz Frank ligament.
Yeah, that's right. So, can you tell us more about that though? Because I'm not totally familiar with that either.
So it's the ligament that controls your foot, like your toe movement. So it's a pretty crucial one to have. Mm-hmm. It's more commonly known as a car accident, because when your foot's like that, and in a car accident, your foot's on the brake, it comes back and it kind of tears. Okay. So you lose all movement in your toes or your finger toes because it's in your foot. But I'm not an expert in it, so if anyone wants to know more about it, go Google it. That's all I know is that I lost control of my toes because it was the ligament that connected that. But yeah, I not that I wish it upon anyone, but I almost do hope that people go through some sort of hardship or adversity, because I grew massively from it. I was on cloud nine, we spoke about the season I had, and playing for Collingwood, I was like, everything's going right. Like, this is awesome. Like, this is just I never pictured this for myself. And then it kind of all came crashing down when I was injured, because with my foot, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play, and it was almost a 12-month injury, like the ACL of the foot.
Yeah.
But I am so grateful I did go through it, and I was able to sit on the sideline, because I guess I gained a new perspective and appreciation for what my body was able to do. And then when I'm not the biggest fan of running, and I'm still not, but when it was taken away from me, I was like, all I want to do is run. Like, that's all I want to do. And how, like, I was almost like, how dare you take for granted when you could do it? And like, even sitting down, like, I shouldn't complain, because there's people that can't do it. So, there was a time where you couldn't do it. So it was probably one of the biggest turning points in my career and as a person, going through the injury that I did. And like, not that I want to go through it again, but I do enjoy going through hard times, because that's, I think, when you get the most out of yourself and you can learn a lot about yourself.
Want to be a smart athlete? Be Smart Athletic provides a versatile protocol for pain-free longevity. To learn more about our SMART programs, follow me on Instagram at BeSmartAthletic or visit BrittSmart.com to get in touch.
Yeah, you definitely can learn from ups and downs and adversities. It's not the only way to learn, but it is a great way to learn. And like you said, you can't compare people who have gone through worse things and whatnot, or have it worse off. But that doesn't take away the value of what you've learned from that and what you've personally gone through, because every experience is definitely different. But how did you stay? And again, like we talked about before, being injured, it's just another perspective that you didn't have before. So wow, now it's another angle. When I come across this again or something similar in life, it's like, okay, I know how to just step back and let's get all the angles. So how did you stay involved from being a spectator, so to speak, on the sideline, but still stay involved with the team? What were some things that you did?
Yeah, for me, it was like, I can either sit and dwell and feel sorry for myself, and kind of like, I don't know, like feel sad. But I kind of felt that for a week, and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel great. Like, the only person who can change it is yourself. So if you're feeling crappy, like, okay, we'll do something about it then, Chloe. And for me, I was, I'd been given a role of an ops assistant. So like, still being involved in the program. I did all my rehab at the club, and I was still involved. And even that was a challenge, because camaraderie is built on the court and on the field, and that's easy because it's convenient. But it wasn't that convenient for me. Now I had to make more of an effort, or a different effort, to build relationships with my teammates, because I couldn't be out on the field and my actions couldn't do the talking. So I had to find another way to build that respect and build that foundation, because I was immobile. I was a broken athlete at that time. But it kind of was a lot of, I guess, inner strength that I had to pull myself out of that little dark hole that we can get in when we go through injuries. It's not to say that I didn't go back there at times, but I definitely did pull myself out of it. And it comes back to that support I had around me. All these things you've spoken about, they kind of it's funny how they all come back up in conversation, because that's what helped me get out of that dark hole that I was in. And yeah, I stayed involved in the program, and like, it was a blessing in disguise that I was injured, because I gained a whole new perspective. I grew from it. I had strength that I didn't think, not physical strength, inner strength that I didn't know that I had.
Yeah. And that's huge. And I think, what would be, so you're tangible of trying to stay involved and, take some of that focus off yourself and pour it into your teammates. So tangible is staying involved with, kind of a role with the offensive team and doing what would be your advice, for other people when things aren't going well, even just like personally, or if it's injuries, or, I guess, what are your tangibles of being a good teammate, one, and then a tangible of, if you are on the sidelines at the moment, what are some tangible ways to make sure you stay involved and you know that your teammates still care about you and it's not all about, yourself?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say is it's temporary. Like, it's not going to be this way forever.
Yeah.
So almost in a way, be in the moment. If you're feeling down, feel that way, like ride it out. Don't try suffocate it down and down and down, because it'll all just come back up. Feel what you're feeling in that moment. And in a sense, like, kind of shift your perspective on things. Like, okay, your teammate can do what you can't do, but what an opportunity for you to support them and be the support that they didn't know they needed or didn't think they'd ever have. And you can't do what you can do, so why don't you help someone else and, kind of shift all your learnings onto them, because they can do it at the moment. And yeah, like, that's a tangible for me is you can't physically be there for your teammate, but you can emotionally be there, which is something you probably never would have been. And just, yeah, it's not, as much as you're injured, it's not about you in a way. Like, yes, it can be, but we play team sports. So if you're injured in a team environment, and I sound probably really like, cold, but it's not about you. Like, you need to do what you need to do for the team. And then outside of that, that's when you can have your moments. And that's when it's about you, when you're outside of that environment. So that they're probably tangibles for me. And you've just got to learn, and it'll come through it. And I can speak now on it because I have been through it, but you've got to rely on yourself, and you've got to be comfortable with yourself, to get, like I said, yourself through it all. Because at the end of the day, the only person that can really pick you up is you, because people can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you've got to be an active participant in getting better and getting yourself out of ruts.
Yeah, I think you have to be confident in yourself. I think that does take time. And sometimes having an injury and then realizing when you're sitting on the side of a game or training, you realize all the emotions that your teammates go through in a training, during different training sessions or during different games, that you never really notice when you're playing, but you're mad when you're playing if other people don't notice that you're upset or you haven't gotten the ball or it's just so interesting being on the other side, being like, oh, wow, she just had a hard time during that whole section. If I had been out there playing well, I would have been like, all right, yeah, feeling good about this training, not even caring what the teammate next to me just went there and just took a beating,
Mm-hmm. You go like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's really, really cool. And just to segue and just finish up, tell us what you're doing now or these next few months, because I know the preseason stuff's going to be coming up soon. And then you have the season in the new year. Hopefully, I know with COVID, it's like, a little bit up in the air and stuff, but tell us what you know or what you can tell us about your training, about your hopes for your team this coming up season.
Yeah. So I've made the choice. I'm up in Queensland at the moment because Melbourne has so many restrictions on it that I had a way to get up to Queensland. So it was a quality of life decision, so I can be up here and train. And my contract starts in November, and I'll be there for my contract because I will honour and I'm loyal to the contract with Collingwood so I'm signed with one more year. But for me, it's putting myself in the best position that I can in this environment, in this world environment at the moment, to be as good as I can be. And for me, that was being up here in Queensland for on-field and off-field reasons. So that's me. I'm doing some online study because I don't think we can ever stop learning. So kind of tapping into everything. And then hopes this season is just kind of, we made finals last year, but obviously the ultimate goal is to win a premiership. But for me, I really want to work on the culture of our team. So that's something that I really want to focus on individually, and hopefully working on the culture with that, a premiership kind of is just the outcome. So get the formula right and the outcome will sort itself out. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell right now.
Yeah. And when are they saying the season would start and finish and all that?
So it's due to start in February and then finish in January, February, March, about April. Yeah. But with everything, so the life has an asterisk, subject to change. So
yeah,
definitely just got to be adaptable, and if adversity comes, just deal with it when it does come.
Yep. No, that makes sense. The last question I'll give you is what's your strength conditioning, your fitness? How are you staying in shape? What's that looking like? What do you do?
Definitely went through a bit of an unmotivated stage, but that was okay. And I'm back on track now. I've reached out to the people at the club, so we've got all these resources that I've tapped into. So I've got myself into a bit of a routine now. So there's something to be done every day, and I am someone who likes ticking boxes. So I've written out things for me, and my partner's really supportive in all of that. She also likes to keep pretty physically fit and also mentally fit. So I'm ticking away. I've built a routine for myself, and come pre-season, then it'll kind of be given to us, and I've just got to follow the guidelines.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I appreciate you sharing just kind of what you're doing day to day, but also just with what went through your mind and heart as well with everything that, that has gone on stuff. So now I appreciate you coming and chatting, and, we look forward to, your upcoming season and stuff. So,
yeah, well, sorry, it's my partner's going through a injury at the minute, so she's coming down with the crutches. And
what injury?
It's torn meniscus, unfortunately.
Well, 6 weeks she'll be back.
She'll be right. She's an elite athlete.
Yes,
she is straighty 180 with everything. So, but no, thank you for having me on, Britta. I hope that I've given you some insight through just my stories, and everyone's kind of got their own journey, and they'll learn what they want to learn through their own experiences. But yeah, that's just mine laid out, and yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thanks for being yourself, and keep being yourself out there, and keep growing and learning. So, and maybe one day you'll grow up and you won't have to wear nappies or diapers anymore. I'll be super proud of you. All right,
you are Sarah.
Catch ya. Talk to you later.
This episode of The Smart Athlete was proudly engineered and released by the LUDUS.